What's up everyone, Lance Hedrick here, and today we're going to take a look at my favorite hand grinder for filter coffee, the 1ZPRESSO ZP6. Now before we continue, I want to point out that sadly this hand grinder isn't really available. It might still be available in Taiwan, but they never really put this out for international sales. The way I got this is from a friend that I met through Instagram named Mark down in the Philippines. He shipped it to me in order to check it out, and I fell in love. I've had it for about 2 weeks and I've been using it a lot while I was doing testing for my hand grinder video, linked right there. And I really wanted to include this, but because of the lack of availability, I decided against it. Anyway, this was 1ZPRESSO's attempt at a filter hand grinder, something that was brew focused. And so this has 6 spokes on it, and I'll pull it apart at the end of the video. And yeah, it's the idea of it is that it's supposed to produce very few fines. So we all are aware of the JX, the JMax, the K series, the Q2 from them, and they're great. 1ZPRESSO, as I said in a previous video, is absolutely crushing it. They're probably the giants of the hand grinding industry as regards their selection and the quality all matched together. So this, however, what I have heard and what I've seen actually in messages from 1ZPRESSO is that it was too clear of a cup of coffee. It was too clean, and so it wasn't selling. I know that sounds anecdotal, but I've actually seen messages from them stating that the locals there, they thought it was too clean. It tasted like water, and so they ended up not really pushing it out of the fear that there wouldn't really be a demand. And so I kind of shelved it. They had actually 2 grinders with this same burr set. They had one called the JS and this one called the ZP6. Now the difference between the two is this one has tighter alignment and a little bit of a better built burr cage, but the JS was only $110. I'm not sure what the price tag on this one was. I found the JS on a forum what the price was in like 2020 or so. So both of these were brew focused with the set of burrs, but because of the tighter alignment, apparently supposedly, the JS had about 2% less fines than a Comandante or a JX, and then this one has 2.5% less fines than even the JS, so around 4.5 to 5% less fines than the Comandante. Of course, I don't have a laser, so I can't really truly check that in sifting tests. And this is something I meant to point out in my hand grinder video. Sifting tests don't really mean anything at all. They're very unhelpful because when you think about it, you're assuming sphericity when you're doing a sifter test. Grounds aren't spherical, and so what you're going to have is grounds that are 400 microns can make it through a 200 micron sieve if they're on their side. So if a ground is shaped like rice, it can kind of squeeze through the longer you shake it. And of course you want to shake it for a really long time in order to separate as much of the fines from their static hold on boulders as possible. So in reality, sifting tests don't mean anything. They're very unhelpful. So I wasn't going to present those to you today, and I don't have laser graphs. But what I can tell you is based off of obviously my experience, which is anecdotal of course, and then off of the experience of the actual market in Taiwan. So let's just get to it. This produces, in my opinion, this is like, if you're familiar with these burr sets, this is like the SSP unimodal of the hand grinding world. I have never had as clean of cups of coffee as I have from this. Now, it is somewhat similar to the C40 or the K Plus or things like that in its profile in a way, but it has a much cleaner finish, and there's just a little bit more, you can push the extraction more without losing or deteriorating your cup. So the K Plus and that burr set in general from 1ZPRESSO was made to be a bit less unimodal. They wanted to have a wider particle distribution so that you could have really complex cups at lower extractions and you could do espresso with it quite easily. Same thing with the Comandante, very similar burr shape. It has a little wider distribution relative to all distributions, not to hand grinders obviously, but it has a wider distribution so that you can do the espresso and you can get really nice cups. But if you've noticed with hand grinders, if you're pushing up to the 24-25% extraction range, they really fall off. The cups are not very good. And so even though you do see these grinders used at the World Championships, most people are grinding super coarsely with the exception of maybe like one person. And so, and that person double grinds. So, which helps with the particle distribution. But what you have is people using on the Comandante anywhere from 25 to 30 clicks at that world level. So they're extracting really low and they're getting incredible cups. You're not finding people extracting super highly that are going to be getting really complex, tasty cups. Because again, when you push and push and push with these hand grinders, the quality just kind of dips, the finish is lost, and it just doesn't taste super great. So this one, however, was created so you could push as far as you wanted, and you weren't going to really lose any of that cup quality. So let's go ahead. We're going to, well, I guess we should go ahead and take a look at the body of it. I'm getting ahead of myself. So it's really minimalistic design, really slick, just straight up and down with the same click system as on that K series. So what we have is the external adjustment ring up top, and it has around 60 or so clicks. It's super easy though to change from coarse to fine. The issue is because of the lack of fines, and because they have caps, essentially, it's not infinite turning. It said you can't really do espresso, but we're about to test that out. So you go all the way down to the finest, and then all the way up to the coarsest. And yeah, there's caps. So it's around 60 or so steps. And they're 22 microns per step. So not really a fine enough adjustment to really dial espresso in well, but pretty good. You have on the Kinu, you have down to like 10 microns. On the Orphan Espresso Lido, you have down to 5 microns. The Comandante is only 30, unless you upgrade to red clicks, then you have it down to 15. So 22 is kind of in that sweet spot, but it's definitely a filter-focused burr set. Anyway, then we have the catch cup is just threaded. It's got a pretty decent feel to it, nothing too special. And that's what the bottom of it looks like. And then the top, there we are. So again, after we brew our coffees, I'll pull this apart and we'll take a quick look at it. But until then, let's go ahead and brew. All right, so I just brewed up a Kalita Wave of some coffee from Melbourne, Australia. It's a single origin, Colombia. Anyway, it's a washed coffee. And so I ground actually quite fine on this. They kind of say to do 3.5 to 4.5 on the larger numbers for filter. I did at 3.2 just to really push the extraction and see kind of like what the limits are on this baby is. Yeah, so I'm going to go and take a sip and we'll just talk about the flavor profile a bit. Genuinely, this, wow, it's, yeah. So this was a super, it's like pretty powdery grind size for what I was doing. I was kind of, I'm aiming for a higher TDS, higher extraction. And this has, it has everything I wanted. It's got florals, it's got like the deeper undertones of chocolates, it's got some fruits in it. And the greatest part is the finish isn't falling off, it's lingering. It's got a really long finish of like dried fig. Anyway, the idea with this is that because it has less boulders, less fines than traditional hand grinders, or even the more quality hand grinders, you're able to have a kind of a more complete cup that lasts a lot longer. So, I mean, this is delicious. It's actually for my first cup today. I've been lessening my coffee intake prior to filming, so appreciate it. Oh, very good. So yeah, this creates just a really incredibly clean, crisp cup that is honestly like, it would be, I mean, I'd be able to tell the difference, but it's genuinely like the SSP unimodal of hand grinders. Like this is crisp, it's clean, it's clear, it's clean and clear. And what's that commercial? Clean and clear and na 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 na. What's that?
I don't know.
Crud. Clean and clear. Na, na, na. I think it's like a face wash ad.
Maybe it's Maybelline?
Maybe it's Maybelline. Okay, sorry for the sorry. All right, so anyway, all right. So I'm going to move on, and I'm going to try to do espresso on it. So actually, crud, I'll start the machine up. I'm going to try to pull a shot of espresso on it, and then we'll wrap things up. So here we are. We're going to test to see if there's enough resistance in the puck in order to pull some Spro. And all right, so I just put the burr setting down to 1 click off of burr rub. So I wanted to go all the way down. I went all the way down to 0 and I clicked up until I didn't hear any more burr rub. And I just ground a 20-gram dose there, tossed it in, distributed it, tamped it, pulled it, and it actually pulled pretty nicely. There was, it was kind of quick there at the end. But again, if you do have a few small fines production, there's probably not a bunch of puck resistance, but it did look like it pulled really nicely. I'm gonna go ahead and take a sip. And it tastes incredibly vibrant. But of course, the obvious issue is I was at the finest setting, and the adjustments are 22 microns. So this just happened to pull well at the finest setting, really. You can go down to burr touch. I'm not comfortable doing that with a cone burr, with a hand grinder, but it did take about 1 minute and 10 seconds to grind, so really not that bad. I've had grinders that go in excess of 2 minutes when doing espresso, but an obvious thing is that there's nothing to really grip. It's just metal, so you got to really grip it hard in order to not lose, in order to not let it spin in your hand, which is a downside. But since it is brew focused, you shouldn't really have much issues holding it. This espresso is actually really good. But again, that was just lucky. This is a super lightly roasted filter roast Colombian coffee, which makes me think that if you're doing darker roasted coffees, you could probably dial in espresso, but the likelihood is people who are drinking darker roasted coffees aren't going to want something as unimodal as this. And of course, real quick aside, there's no such thing as a unimodal grinder. That's just a term people use fallaciously to describe a more narrow peak. So just meaning that there's less, like typically on a curve, this is very roughly drawn with my finger, but you'll have, if you have on an X and Y axis, you have like amount or volume or surface area or whatever of grounds on the x-axis. What you're going to have is a little peak on volume of it, peak here for fines, and then it goes up for your desired particle size, right? So that's bimodal. There's two modes, right? There's two curves. So essentially, whenever people are saying it's unimodal, they're saying it's much more of the particles are in a smaller area, right? As opposed to something that'd be much wider, like a big hump like that. So, so when people are saying unimodal, they're really saying just a more narrow particle peak for your chosen grind size. So this would be more unimodal. But yeah, wow, this is. I'm not kidding. This might be the best shot of espresso I've had in like, I don't know, a while. That's very good. It's like almost refreshing. It's crisp, it's clean, it's very good. But again, you wouldn't be able to really dial because I was on the finest setting essentially, and 22 micron clicks, not really going to do much. Anyway, I think if we raise a little bit of noise, a little bit of racket, and we shoot emails to 1ZPRESSO, I'm gonna send them this video when it goes out. If we blow it up, maybe, just maybe, they will release this grinder to the public, which I think would be better for everyone. I'm thinking of stealing this from my friend in the Philippines and not shipping it back to him, if that tells you anything. Not really, but I really want to. But anyway, I think if we make enough noise, perhaps maybe we could do something. Let's show what the power of the people can do. Let's get this grinder back on the market so you can see why I love it and why I think it's better than anything else on the market for filter coffees. You're going to have the clarity that you desire. For those of you who want to have that experience of the more unimodal burrs, you can get that in this grinder. Wowzers. And this is unbiased because this is from a friend. I didn't buy it, nor did I get it for free. I'm borrowing it, and I don't want to have to give it back. It's so very good. Anyway, that's that. Oh, wait, actually, quick disassembly. All right, so I just pulled the burr out so we can get a good look at that. So as the name suggests, ZP6, there are 6 sides to it. So you have 6 spokes on the top, which gives the feed rate down here, down to the side. And then you have the final cutting teeth, which are very short, much shorter than typical. So it's a very quick cutting phase. So it has this long crushing area and then a quick cutting. Now, on the inside here, you'll see that the cone is not removable, or the collar, I'm sorry. The collar is not removable. So there's no way I could get that out, but you can kind of check it out there. So inside here, we have 3 bearings. Now, 2 is typically what really nice hand grinders have that allow for better alignment. This one has 3, so it gives it a really tight alignment. And it also has 2 different springs to ensure that you have precision in your different clicks and to maintain a really tight alignment. So this is just built this is built so sturdily. It's wonderful as far as alignment goes. Of course, it doesn't match the actual build quality of like something like that Orphan Espresso or the Kinu or something like that. But as far as the alignment goes, I don't know if there's anything that can really rival how incredibly aligned this is. As far as like what it's doing in order to ensure it maintains alignment, like with the 3 bearing system. So Anyway, now that is everything I had to say and show you today. Yeah, let's make some noise. Let's get this back on the market because I think a lot of people would really, really, really enjoy this coffee or this grinder, especially those of us who enjoy really lightly roasted coffees and are seeking kind of that clarity, which, just to give you a quick definition, I say that as a clear delineation of flavors. So it has nothing really to do with acidity or sweetness or body, but more so the delineation of the different flavors, the complexity, the nuance that is present in a specific coffee. So it's kind of getting the machinery out of the way and allowing the terroir, the coffee, what the farmer has done to kind of speak to the end user. So that's it. That's the 1ZPRESSO ZP6. This is my favorite grinder that you might not be able to buy, but I hope that you can. So let's push. Check out my Patreon. Hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment, do all this stuff. And I hope you brew something tasty today. And cheers.